Hey everyone, welcome back to New Slang. I'm your host, music journalist Thomas Mooney. Of course, this right here is episode 129, where I'm joined by rising singer-songwriter Reyna Roberts. I spoke with Reyna a couple of weeks back on the phone. You know those people you meet and you just kind of feel their energy? Their energy just kind of transcends whatever medium you're communicating through. She's very much that kind of individual, and you just feel her bubbly personality and her energy, and it's just kind of refreshing. I think it's really easy to forget some of the fun aspects of all of this, because often we are talking about serious subjects, and that's not to say that we didn't cover some serious ground here, but it's just really refreshing talking with someone who is just really excited about all of this. And it's really easy to see why Reyna has become one of these rising country artists that have really just emerged out of this year and gained a footing. I know her two latest singles, last year's 67 Winchester and this year's Stompin Grounds, they aren't officially quote-unquote her debut material, but for all intents and purposes, they are our proper introduction, if you will. Like any artist, Reyna's early years have been filled with experimenting and honing in on what she wants to be as an artist and what kind of music she's wanting to make. And obviously that's an ongoing process. And there's most definitely a pop sense to what she's doing. She has really great sensibilities to that, but she's also begun to embrace more and more country aspects to her music. And a perfect example of that is Stompin Grounds, her latest single. It is country embracing, which it's not just country music embracing. I think it's key to understand, like, she's also embracing those roots, her southern Alabama roots. And she's talking about country lifestyle, country as a place of mind, a place that you're from. And that's all really important to, I think, her development as an artist. Obviously, the song is very anthemic in nature, and it's incredibly infectious, and it taps into those very familiar themes of small hometowns. And like I said, Reyna, she spent a lot of her youth in Alabama, and you hear in the song that she mentions Roll Tide, which I think is just kind of like this little funny little personality added into the song. You know, again, like I said, like I really enjoyed talking with Reyna about, you know, country music and her songwriting and her craft and her being so early on in her career. And I just think she's going to really be doing some really monumental things in music. And I say music in general, not as a gatekeeping kind of way, which we do talk about in the interview, but I think she's really going to transcend just being labeled as a quote-unquote country music artist, because I do think she's just filled with so much potential and talent and just obviously an amazing personality and a great singing voice. And yeah, I don't know. I just think she's going to be doing some really amazing things here in the near future. Today's presenting sponsor is Desert Door Texas Soto. If you know anything about me, it's probably that I'm from the heart of West Texas and absolutely love everything about West Texas. And that's really why I love Desert Door so much. You may be asking yourself what exactly Soto is. Well, it's a premium spirit that's similar to a tequila or a mezcal, but for my money, it's a little bit more refined and smooth. There's a sweetness and faint hints of vanilla and citrus, and it's also as versatile as your garden variety vodka. At its core, Desert Door is authentically West Texas. They go out and harvest Soto plants from the wild and bring them back to their distillery over in Driftwood, Texas. So next time you're at your local liquor store, get a bottle of Desert Door. For more info, check this episode's show notes. If this is your first time listening to New Slang, I strongly suggest hitting that subscribe link. If you just did, I'm giving you a virtual high five right now. New Slang is over on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and basically any and everywhere you listen to podcasts. Go check out the New Slang merch store, grab a koozie, some stickers, buttons, and magnets. Any bit helps. I'll throw a link into the show notes. And if you're into playlists, go check out Tom Mooney's Cup of Coffee and the Neon Eon playlists over on Spotify.
The Neon Eon is for all your nostalgic 90s country needs, which there's going to be more Neon Eon related stuff coming your way pretty soon. And then Tom Mooney's Cup of Coffee is a regularly updated mix of new Americana and country music. It's also a really great hint at who I have coming up on the podcast. So yeah, go follow those.
All right, I think that just about does it for the intro. Let's go ahead and get on to the interview. Here is Reyna Roberts. Yeah, well, let's just start off with, you released Stompin Grounds just this year, and it feels like that was a really big kind of watershed moment for you. You're getting...
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, you're getting like a lot of buzz online on Instagram and on Twitter, and getting a lot of shout outs from people who are established in the country music industry and stuff. What was like, I guess, like that whirlwind of releasing the song and then actually, there actually being a really positive, really a lot of people gravitating to it and whatnot?
Amazing. Especially because it's like the day I released the song is the same day that Rolling Stone came out the article. So it was like that. And then it was so many other things like back to back. It seemed like every day I'd be like, wow, I don't even know if anything better can top what just happened. And then something, like more blessings just kept coming and coming. So yeah, no, it was a whirlwind. It was a lot, but I'm just thankful that people even liked it in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I can probably feel like, when you release something that you're putting out there, that there's a second where you're not sure how people are going to take it. Like, and so like, there's that, like that moment of maybe you going like, is there a way to stop this train? Like, I don't know if it's ready or something, and then when you finally do get it out, there's that sense of relief, and you just kind of put it in everyone else's hands to take it.
Honestly, for me, I never get the relief part. It's always like, oh my goodness, are people going to like this? I really hope so. Let's see what happens. And then the release. But I never feel like there's like, whew, okay, I did it. I'm just like, okay, what's next? What's next for me to do? I always feel like I need to be doing something or pushing to get things done. So maybe one day though, I'll be like, okay, I did that. There we go. It's over.
Well, I don't know. It's important to like take those moments, because like I feel I get what you're saying, because like you're kind of like, well, I need to start working on the next thing. I need to start doing other things, because this just can go, and like just like appreciating that moment, but or trying to. I think like one of the things about that song that resonated with people is that you're talking about hometowns, and you're talking about, like you said, like your stomping grounds, like you're talking about things that there's a nostalgic factor. And I think that so much of music ties to the nostalgia of like where your home is. Where was like, I guess like framing that song, like the idea, where did that first start? And like, what was the process of, actually writing the song?
Creating it. Well, I just got to Nashville because I was in California. I live in Nashville now, but at the time I was flying to Nashville. I met with my producer, Noah, and we both wrote the song together. And he came up with this really, really cool riff. And he had just moved into his new house with his family, so he didn't have anything in the studio set up. It was just me, him, and a guitar, and a whole empty room. That was his like studio to be, I guess. And he did this really cool like guitar riff, and I was like, Noah, I was like, what is that? I was like, I want that, whatever that is right there. I'm like, that sounds like me. And he's like, all right, let's do it. So he kept playing it, and I looked through my phone. I was looking through my song titles, because I'll write a whole bunch of song titles, and I'm like, okay, maybe one day I'll use this. And so I saw Stompin Grounds, and I was like, oh my goodness, this feels perfect. And I was like, no, what do you think of this? And he was like, I think I like this other title. I'm like, no, but I feel like this was it. And he was like, okay, let's see. And then we just started writing. And I was thinking about my mom and our family and her life in Alabama and my life in Alabama. And it kind of just led from there, honestly. It's funny because we were talking about Roll Tide, because my mom went to the University of Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And all over our house, there's University of Alabama everywhere. So I was like, Noah, we got to say Roll Tide. And he was like, all right, let's do it. So that's how that happened.
Yeah, like I caught that Roll Tide, and I was like, oh, she's one of these Alabama fans that have never experienced losing football ever. So
I know, right?
It's I don't know. It's like being it's one of those things where like I'm all my sports teams. I have like one championship in all like any sports fandom, and like of course there's fans of like the Yankees or the Lakers, and I'm like, you guys do not understand like what it is to be on the other side. So like that one championship just like means the world to us. But I digress.
Yeah.
This episode is in part brought to you by the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, Texas. There is a way to help A, support Blue Light, and B, get a sense of that normalcy by visiting bluelightlubbock.com, clicking on the merch tab, and getting some koozies, a vast array of t-shirts and caps, and yes, even a Blue Light flag. While it is such a bummer that live music is still on hold right now, I'm telling you, by getting some Blue Light Live merch, you're going to feel better. It just feels better wearing a t-shirt and ball cap and helping support your favorite bar. Again, that's bluelightlubbock.com. Click on the merch tab, get some merch. All right, back to the episode.
You know, like obviously, like this seems like it seems like right now you're probably working on a larger project.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like, what's the plans there? What is like what are you thinking as far as going
like
forward?
next step?
Yeah. What's next for you?
Right now, I'm actually working on a music video for Stompin Grounds. And I'm super excited about it. One of my friends, his name is Matt Cohen. He's an actor and director. And he's on like it's funny because he's on a few shows that I watched before we became friends. And now he's directing my music video, with my other friend, Jason Mans. So we're getting ready for that. And at the same time, I'm just like writing a whole bunch of songs, a lot of songs, a lot of co-writes, that I've been really enjoying and I'm excited about. And I can't wait to like record all these songs and put them out. But that's what I'm doing right now. Just basically creating a whole bunch of new material and getting ready for Stompin Grounds, the music video.
Yeah. Well, like, what is it like, I guess like, what is like your, not that you have like necessarily a magic number, like what number do you kind of want to get to as far as like songs before you go, all right, let's start, dwindling these down to what makes an EP or a record or whatever the case?
Oh man, that's hard. I want to say like 12, probably. I want to have 12 songs that I can't stop listening to, like 12 songs that make me want to listen over and over and over again. And that make me say, I want to sing these songs for the rest of my life. So once I hit those 12 songs, and that's when I'll be comfortable, I think. Mm-hmm. Comfortable enough to release them.
Yeah. It seems that like, you are like really attached to like, I guess like your the piano is like really a focal point for you. You've been playing it for most of your life and everything. Is that where a lot of songs start out for you, on the piano?
Oh, when I first started writing, yes. I would just sit on the piano and then I would just start writing there from there. But since I've over the years, sometimes I'll start on the piano, but a lot of times now I'll just be like singing around the house, and I'll be like in the kitchen, like making food, and I'll just be singing about something random, like, oh, that's cool. Let me write a whole song based on like this one riff or just this one line I just said. And that's usually how the song starts. But yeah, sometimes I start just by singing some random stuff or sitting down on the piano and really feeling something and already having in mind something that I want to sing about, something I want to express.
Yeah. Like one of the things that I guess I've picked up on for a lot of songwriters has been, I think like we just kind of talk about the songwriting as like when you're at an instrument, when you have the pen and paper and you're writing the song, it's like that just being the writing process. And it feels like we just kind of dismiss all of that time beforehand where like that song, like whatever that idea is that is kind of just like stuck in your head and you just can't get it out. And it seems like for you, like that, what it is that gets stuck in your head is like you just kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of just like messing around and like when you're doing other things, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Exactly. I mean, I feel like I definitely know what you're talking about. And I agree. I feel like we always talk about, like sitting down, being ready to write the song as opposed to just being in the moment. And that's how most of my songs start when I'm by myself. If I'm not writing with other people, I get most of my inspiration from watching movies, watching TV shows, reading books, and then it'll ignite something in me that I'm like, oh my goodness, that was an awesome line. I want to write a whole story about that, or a relationship that I see on TV, or the feeling I get from watching the characters, and then I'll just start from right there. Just start singing, see if anything cool comes out. And if it does, then I go from there. And if not, well, then, I just go to the next idea, but I'm not always like sitting down or doing like prepared to write the song. I'm just, seeing whatever feels the best.
Yeah. I feel like and it's partly because like some songs have been written this way and everything, but it feels like we just kind of romanticize the idea of like it just kind of being so effortless for a song to happen. And it's like, like just like
for some people.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you first.
Oh no, I was just going to say like, just kind of like that effortless kind of just like too cool for school kind of like, yeah, I just did this. It just came out this way perfectly. And, like, it feels like that you have to kind of give yourself an allowance to just not feel like
write some weird stuff.
Yeah, well, like you're not judging yourself.
Yeah, not take it very, very seriously.
Yeah.
I feel like me personally, I mean, I've been around writers who can just like, it is effortless for them and they're just like going and going. And I'm like, how did you do that? For me, it's very different. Sometimes if I'm at a piano and I can possibly write a whole song right there in like 5-10 minutes. Sometimes though, I have an idea and I have this story, but I'm like, okay, this can go 3 different ways. Which way do I want it to go? So it's kind of a long process, but sometimes I'll write a whole song 3 different ways to see like what story I like the most or what feels the best. And then I'll choose that one that I like the most. And that, sometimes that'll take a week or that'll take 2 weeks for one song. But for me, I'm like, if it turns out an amazing song, in my opinion, I know I'm biased, but then it takes a week. For me, as long as it comes out, the way that makes me feel, then I'm like, okay, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
I feel like for some people it is effortless, but for me, I am not one of those people.
See, I also think that like they're lying to us. Like it actually is hard. And like they've just like, I don't know, been putting all the practice and just don't show that side. I find that really interesting that you say, if you're writing a song and it feels like you've got like different outcomes for the song, it can go that 3 or 4 different ways or whatever the case, that you will go that route. You'll go every route and kind of exhaust that as an exercise and then kind of go back and go, okay, well, this one actually works the best, or this one is what makes me feel the most. I find that really interesting. When did you start, I guess, have you always kind of done that? Or is that something that you eventually just kind of went, I need to like do this. I need to
exhaust every
I
avenue?
think I feel like once my ideas started kind of evolving, and me personally, I feel like started getting better, better stories, better song ideas. Then it turned into, okay, this can be taken multiple ways, or this story can have different versions. And I'm like, but I like this version, but I like this version too. Which one do I want? And I'm like, okay, let me just write out both, and then at the end of that, see which one I like the most. And I'll usually just ask my parents. I'll be like, hey, which one do you like more? And then I'll end up choosing what everybody feels like is the best. Because even though for me, I'm just like, I want to tell the best story, it also has to speak to other people. It also has to be universal. So and I'll usually get other opinions, and I'll be like, okay, I'll do that one. That's the way to go when I'm undecided, when it's hard for me to choose.
Yeah, that's always interesting too, because I think sometimes what you feel is best, it's because like you're so connected to it, and maybe like it's latched onto you in a way that where it's so personal or so close to you that like other people are like, I didn't understand what, or they didn't get, like they only got half the message or whatever the case. And sometimes it does take that other outside view to at least understand, like make sure like it's all being able to be understood and processed by other people.
And cohesive. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I know sometimes I feel like I'm able to know when a song is personal to me and if a song is more universal. Like someone out in a totally different small town can understand what I'm saying and also feel what I'm saying, then, that song is universal as opposed to a song just being for me and me alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like it's so weird because like in saying all that, like sometimes when you're like super personal or super specific, that's what makes it universal. And it feels like that shouldn't be the way, but it's like sometimes when you're so detail oriented or so specific to a certain idea, that's what people go, oh, well, it's actually something that's universal and not specific. I don't know. That's such a weird thing.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean. I feel like it depends on, I guess it just depends on how specific it is, but how relatable also. And I think that's what makes it universal. If you can be relatable and tell a story that millions of other people might have experienced, but like in a different way, in a new way, in your own way, then then I guess it's specific but universal at the same time. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, like it's just like it sounds like it shouldn't be true, but it is.
I wanted to talk to y'all one more time about our new partners at Desert Door and offer up a handful of my favorite ways to drink it. Get you a Mexican Coca-Cola, have a couple of swigs, then pour yourself some Desert Door Oak aged in, toss in a lime wedge or two, or how about this? Pour some Desert Door into a mug, top off the glass with some ginger beer, squeeze in a lime, or for all you ranch water drinkers out there, get you a Topo Chico, take a couple of pulls off, and then pour in some Desert Door. Toss in a couple of lime wedges, and now you have a mighty tasty and refreshing ranch water. Remember, Sotol is as versatile as vodka and has a more refined, smooth, and a more complex palate than tequila. It's rich and balanced, and whatever your go-to drink is, it'll make it that much better. And again, it's inherently West Texas. It tastes like home. For more info on Desert Door, check our show notes. All right, that's it for Thomas Mooney's Cocktail Minute. Let's get back to the show.
One of the things that you mentioned earlier, and also it's something that a songwriter in these modern times, like you have access to your phone. You're able to like record those voice demos. You're able to, just record melodies or ideas or jot down lines or whatever the case is. It seems that like you have like been able to utilize like not only that for songwriting, but I've read that like you've talked about, reaching out to people on social media and utilizing it as the platforms for helping yourself in your career,
versus just, you know, also just using it for fun. A lot of us use like all the social media for fun, but it feels like you've been able to also utilize the industry. I hate saying the industry, but like the industry side. And like, what is, I guess like, how did you get into doing that too? As far as like, just knowing, like, don't be afraid to like send a message to someone.
I think, well, it's like when you have this dream and you want to make that dream happen, but you don't have the connections. You don't know people in the music industry. How do you connect with people? I mean, you can post on social media and on YouTube, but there's millions of other people doing that as well. So you have to try and think of new avenues, new ways to connect with people. And so for me, I would go and look up my favorite songs, my favorite artists and their songs, and I would look up their producers and their songwriters, and I would research like what their socials are, and their managers and their teams, and I would reach out to them to see if they'd be interested in having a meeting with me or having a writing session. And it's funny because, you know, I'd send out like 20, 30 emails or DMs and like in a day or two and maybe get like 2 responses back. But sometimes those 2 responses are responses that can change your life. So that's how I went about that. And it is a little intimidating because they're like, I don't know if this person's going to say yes. It's a lot of rejection, but I feel like I don't even want to say rejection, but those experiences, like you learn, you just grow and you become stronger. And I feel like sometimes people get intimidated by hearing no or putting themselves out there, but that's the only way you move forward.
Yeah. Like I feel like when I read that as a journalist, I immediately knew what you're talking about because so much of what I do when I'm reaching out, like just for example, this interview here, I reached out to your team and it was like one of those things where like I have no connection to your team at all. So it was just like, you know, a blind email, but I'll send blind emails to people because it's like, what are they like the worst that's going to happen is the no, or, you know, like just like the lack of response. And like, but you're not going to know until they say so. But it is such it's such a, right before you hit that send, there's like that moment of like, oh, should I do this or not? And you reread it like 3 or 4 times to make sure you sound competent and yeah. But also at the same time, I would say that like, I think people would be surprised that like so many emails are out there. Like a lot of these people are reachable, you know? So it just takes like that homework I bet like this kind of like has been really beneficial during this time when you aren't able to meet all these people actually in person that, or like in that organic kind of like, we're both at the same place kind of way. Has that been an added bonus? Like since we've been in this like weird, strange quarantine 2020 time?
I think it's been interesting. It's definitely led me to think about different ways to connect with people. Because even though people are at home, because they're at home, they're also probably getting, you know, a lot more emails and stuff from other people because they're at home too. You know what I mean? So I don't even know if I answered your question for real, but but I think I've been able to connect to a lot more people just in a different way.
You know, I was reading about how like you, as a kid, you were, you know, reading or like listening to a lot of the classic like 90s country kind of stuff and like singing along to people like the Chicks. And what was it that made you gravitate towards Chick songs?
Probably my parents playing them. Cause you know, I was 3, 4. And you know, my mom's sitting here playing the Chicks album and Gretchen Wilson and, my dad's playing all these other albums. That's just what's in my environment, and what they played all the time. And so, you know, them playing that music is the reason I love it.
Yeah. I think that like that Gretchen Wilson when she, like, I guess like her first record that kind of like broke. I think like people don't like realize just how influential and like important that record was for like what's going on in country music today, as far as like I don't know, like I guess like a lot of, you can see a lot of lines from like artists now back to her as a like her when she first like broke into the scene. You know, like
yeah, no, I think she's
go
inspired
ahead.
a lot of women, a lot of people in general. She, you know, pushing the envelope, breaking barriers.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like right now in country music, we have all these like these barriers, these gatekeepers of making it as like just pure white male as possible. And obviously like we're seeing a lot of, I guess, dialogue and a lot of like conversation about like country music needs to be more accepting to just everybody. But like, and I think like all that conversation is great. Do you think that like the fact that we are kind of stuck at home right now has opened that up a little bit more? And do you feel like maybe also at the same time, like it's still like a waiting game, because like it's not like where maybe like it's all in kind of like bad faith in a way, because like we don't have like, there's no shows to show that like, oh, you know, that we do have a lot more we've got shows that are like, I guess, where we've got more women, more diversity, more diverse show lineups, and obviously all that kind of stuff. I know that was like a rambling question, but what are your thoughts on? I guess like what is your thoughts as a black country artist and a woman in country?
I want to say that definitely. I mean, being a woman in general in country music is already is already difficult. And you don't really see many black women in country. Like if you were to go and ask any country music fan, like how many black women in country can you name? They're probably going to have a little bit of a difficult time. But I think it's great that people are at least, like you said, having a dialogue and are at least trying to be more diverse. I mean, when you look at like for me personally, I wasn't sure how people would accept music because, one thing, not just being a black woman in country, but like from my red hair to the way that I dress, it's not quote unquote, like particularly country, but I mean, country's countrywide. Like, I feel like I want to break barriers. Like country doesn't have just one look, and I don't just mean race, but like style. It's around the world, you know what I mean? And I want to help bring that to people's attention, that country doesn't just have one look.
Right. Yeah. Like it's so weird because, I guess like within country music, I think that, so much of everything is tied to quote unquote tradition. And in some ways, like that's really great because it's like, yeah, it influences the new generations of like what they think country music sounds like. But it also at the same time, it creates this like I said, kind of like the gatekeepers of like, well, this isn't country and this is, and no, this is, and no, this is actually like more Americana. And it feels like, like that's just, I've always kind of said like, that's just really exhausting. Trying to like be that, but also like on the industry level, just going to the fact that like a lot of women aren't played on radio is just ridiculous, because some of our greatest artists in America are women country artists, and they're just not played on the radio nearly as much as men. And it feels like some of these guys on the radio, they're just like, we're force fed them no matter what. So I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like a lot of the legends in the country are women. And I think, I mean, the only way we can do is open the conversation more and keep pushing to have more women on radio, other than being silent or trying to, brush it off or just put it away, put it on the back burner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, I guess like what I've been kind of thinking about right now has been the, and you see this across America, regardless of if it's just country music or not. It's kind of like since our culture is so, I guess like the 24-hour news cycle, the rapid fire. If you just kind of like ignore it, or if you go, yeah, you just hope it disappears within 48 hours. And I worry like that. That is like what a whole lot of people in power and in charge are hoping for, that we just kind of ignore it, or are okay with them just saying, yeah, and then just kind of shutting up.
And then not following through.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's been too much movement and too much attention, and too many people progressing for them to, not keep pushing forward, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. Cause I mean, like, it's just like one of those things where, you kind of see it all the time, as far as just like hoping we forget about whatever the case, or getting like tired of that news story, because like people even got tired of like the pandemic story, right? As far as like, yeah, we're just kind of tired of being inside. And like, you started seeing people stop like, being quarantined or like, held inside their houses. And we're like, no, I'm going to the store. We're opening up. And you're kind of like, what? Like how, like, I didn't know you could get tired of this. Like,
yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean, I pray that, I feel like we're evolving, and with women in the country. But at the same time, I don't even know if I'm the best person to ask, because realistically, I've only been pursuing my career in country music for like a year and a half, 2 years. So I'm not as experienced, or I haven't been in it as long as a lot of other women. So I wouldn't even necessarily be the best person to ask, because I haven't experienced all of that.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. Like, yeah, it's such, I feel like sometimes, and maybe I am putting you like in a bad spot right here, but
no.
I think of like sometimes where we, like, you're not like necessarily the authority for everybody, right? Like, I guess that's what you're kind of saying, or like, and sometimes you just kind of are asked that just simply because, you're connected to it in a lot of ways, but I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely do. And I never mind. I don't mind when people ask at all. It doesn't put me in a bad spot, or at least I don't feel like it does. Just in my personal experience, I'm like, all these women who have been doing it for years and years, I don't want to retract from anything that they've experienced, or anything that they've experienced, because they've had a lot more time in it than I have. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's been really great talking with you. I really am excited to hear what you have coming forward. I think that what you've been doing is really great. So, yeah, it's been great talking with you, and hopefully we can do this again once you have more material out and we can talk about those songs.
Same, yeah, absolutely, and please reach out anytime.
Okay, that's it for this one. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you to Reyna Roberts for taking the time for the conversation. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't just yet. Check out the New Slang Patreon and the merch store. I just added some new t-shirts. Go stop by our presenting partners over at Desert Door and the Blue Light Live. All right, that just about does it. I'll see y'all next week for more New Slang.